If a local mad scientist unwittingly sparked a zombie outbreak while you were stranded in an Austrian ski lodge, what would you do? What they may lack in speed, intelligence, durability, and perception, they more than make up for in, well, something. Probably. Okay, they're pretty much the most pathetic bunch of brain eaters we've seen to date, but they somehow still managed to turn a couple dozen people in less than an hour. So, they can't be completely useless. Of course, it certainly doesn't help that everyone is trapped up here until morning, and the only thing lower than the temperature is the average IQ. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the Frostbiters in Attack of the Lederhosen Zombies. Franz is an inventor. Well, sort of. Artificial snow's been around for decades, but he's definitely the first person to make it out of whatever's in all that green stuff. Yeah, that looks healthy. I'm sure every ski resort on planet Earth is gonna jump at the chance to spray that garbage all over their runs. Evidently, these two morons feel the same, which is why they brought in a Russian investor to check out the finished product. Although, it seems their sprayer device still has a few bugs to work out. Ugh. I guess it's back to Kickstarter. Like any good entrepreneur, Franz isn't about to let a casual chemical exposure forestall his business ambitions. Besides, now they've got him right where they want him. Oh, you want to go to the hospital? Maybe toss 100 million rubles our way and we'll see what happens. However, just when the snowman finally manages to get his machine working, the universe dishes out yet another setback.
And now you will see the future of alpine tourism. Stupid.
Hey, thanks a lot, bro. Our pitch is totally ruined. Chekhov was right about to cave too. You could see it in his eyes. The snow streaker's name is Steve, and it turns out today hasn't been going all that well for him either. He just got dropped by a major sponsor while completely humiliating himself and everyone he's associated with in the process. Probably has something to do with hitting the slopes in his birthday suit, and all in front of the Make-A-Wish girl, no less. Lucky for her, being scarred for life isn't gonna be a long-term issue. Oh, well, at least he's still got his no-nonsense manager/GF by his side through all this.
Don't touch me. I asked you. I begged you to be serious. I'm done, Steve. We're done.
Ouch. Man, could things possibly get any worse? Well, judging by Chekhov's mushy and, dare I say, zombie-like appearance, I'd say we're about to find out. Speaking of Mr. Moneybags, I think it's about time we swallow our pride and get him to a doctor. Dude's getting worse by the second, and there's no telling what all that dumpster juice has done to his insides. I mean, for all we know, he's having some kind of serious allergic reaction right now. And given Franz and Knopp were literally just trying to sell snow to the Russians, I highly doubt that they're smart enough to hide a dead body without getting caught. Or alternatively, why don't we just drag him down to the nearest alpine honky-tonk and load him up with schnapps? That ought to turn things around. And while we're at it, let's make sure there's plenty of witnesses nearby for whenever this guy eventually dies in our custody. Nah, it's fine. Just look at the way Chekhov's flopping around on the dance floor. He's the life of the party. Well, you know what that means. Sure, it's not like she could have known he was going to bite her, at least not so hard, but why on earth did you go anywhere near someone who looks like 90 pounds of mashed Oh, what do you think the reaction from the other bar goers is after watching some chick get chomped on? Does a gang of white knights emerge from the shadows to teach him a lesson? How about the bartender? Does she 86 the freak and call the cops? No. Everyone carries on like that was totally normal, which is why he's about to do the same exact thing to Knopp some 5 minutes later.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about business now?
Honestly, dude, you deserve that. I mean, not only are you partially responsible for this mess, but you and Franz have been watching him this entire time. You didn't think it was weird when he started munching people? And just where is our hero when all this is going down? Well, we don't actually have one. The closest we get is our old friend Steve, who decided he'd rather sit outside and be frozen than face Josh and Bronca after his little free-balling stunt damaged their livelihoods. Of course, that's probably for the best, considering things are rapidly falling apart in there. As for why they're even still here in the first place, it seems the chopper that originally brought them up took off without warning. The next bus out from the bottom of the mountain doesn't arrive until the following day, meaning they'll be forced to endure the entire night of techno polka before they can arrange an exfil. Oh, and zombies. Those are here too. Although, given how easily Steve is able to sidestep the first group he encounters, it's hard to say which might be worse. That said, they still managed to do a number on the bar while he was busy sulking. So much for the end of the season party. This place is totally dead.
Best up-risky party ever!
You were saying? I gotta hand it to Steve. Dude holds his own pretty well for someone who just walked blindly into an undead nightmare. But we need to look for a weapon of some kind we can use to extend our reach. Sure, hand-to-hand seems to be working for now, but it requires us to get within snacking distance. Something as simple as picking up a bar stool would lend us a major advantage over individual meat bags. And we could even use it for crowd control in case we get mobbed while searching for somewhere to post up. Fortunately for Steve, he's not alone in here. The bartender, Rita, managed to make it up to the attic, and she's kind or stupid enough to risk life and limb extending a ladder down for a complete stranger who, for all she knows, could turn into one of those things the moment he makes it up there. Yet, for some strange reason, Steve opts to decline her offer of shelter in favor of what exactly? Oh, right. Gotta save my friends. Dude, do you hear screaming right now? No. That means they're either doing the monster mash alongside everyone else, or they found somewhere to hide, which you will almost certainly compromise by leading the freak parade straight to them. And of course, that is exactly what happens. Although, it certainly didn't help that numbnuts here decided to leave the bathroom door wide open. Oh, and Sturvin's bright ideas don't stop there, because instead of simply asking his friends to exit the stall, he has to kick it in like a jackass and totally screw this random guy over. Jesus Christ, maybe Space Eye should have covered this one. The good news is that by bravely sacrificing an innocent man's life, Steve bought them enough time to book it up to the attic. Well, that was fun. Nothing to do now but sit and wait for the cavalry to roll in. I mean, it's warm enough up here, we don't have to worry about freezing to death. And unless the zomvirus spawns some kind of special infected that can jump through the ceiling, we're pretty much as safe as we could possibly be given the circumstances. That all changes if the rest of the world is already zeked out, but we could easily verify that in a few seconds with a simple Google search or phone call. Speaking of which, it turns out Josh knows just who to reach out to in this situation.
Gerne. Hvad vil du gøre, hvis du virkelig skulle sådan give sådan en fuld slaskede?
Yeah, I don't speak Pig Latin, or whatever that was. But there wasn't a single part of that conversation that sounded like, help, help, we're under attack. And that's because instead of calling the police like a normal human being, he decided to phone his horror-obsessed cousin for tips on how to kill him, which is doubly stupid because A, we already know how to kill them. Steve nailed at least one on his way here, and B, as I've already stated, we do not have to leave this spot. Oh, and let's not forget C. There's no way to tell if these zombozos operate like anything portrayed in film. Okay, I get it was supposed to be funny. This is, after all, what you'd call a zombie. Except, it wasn't funny. It was just stupid. And as such, I'm obligated to comment on it. Fortunately for everyone involved, myself included, we have Bronca here to drag things back to the realm of reason by demanding they call someone with both a functional brain and access to firearms. And who better to handle that than crazy old Franz? I mean, sure, they couldn't possibly know he's the one who started this mess. Hell, I don't think he's even made that connection. But the dude clearly has a screw loose based on their first encounter. Besides, any idiot can dial 112, which 4/5 of the people here should know to do being Europeans.
What's this?
The police, the line is dead.
Maybe it's the reception. I mean, we don't really know.
Bro, you literally just called your dumb cousin all the way in Denmark. Clearly, this guy's lying to you for unknown reasons. Probably stupid ones. Not to mention the way he immediately pocketed your cell phone in a thinly veiled attempt at stopping you from contacting the authorities. Of course, it's not going to work because everyone else here also has their phones with them. In fact, the correct response to hearing that someone is unable to call for help is, oh, let me try. Instead, they decide to take this creeper at his word and jump straight to the part where they needlessly make a break for it. Alright, this is is the last time I'm gonna mention it, but there is absolutely no reason whatsoever for them to leave the attic. Even if there legitimately was no cell service, this many people missing would definitely prompt an investigation, which would undoubtedly start at the ski resort, since the first thing anyone would assume is that they got lost somewhere up on the mountain. Right now you have shelter, warmth, and relative safety, and you're really about to pit it all away so you can freeze your collective asses off riding tandem on the back of Franz's snowmobile. Yes, I suppose it's possible they could make it all the way back down the mountain and over to the nearest village before freezing to death, but why risk it when it's completely unnecessary? And then there's the matter of Franz's bizarre behavior. No way I'm going anywhere with this guy after his blatantly obvious betrayal. After all, if he doesn't want us calling the cops, there's no way he's actually gonna drive us to them. Even if we wanted to use the snowmobile, there's still the problem of it being outside and all the way over there. Oh, but don't worry. Apparently Steve has another brilliant plan. Ah, yes. The old Trojan Heidi. Works every time. Look, I know I just made it sound like reaching the snowmobile was difficult and dangerous, but it's actually more of a mild inconvenience. As many zombies as there might be, they're all extremely slow and stupid, so we could probably just make a run for it without any issue. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely gonna draw a crowd, but the snowmobile shed is full of all kinds of dangerous weapons we could use to hold them off while Franz gets it running. That is assuming we don't tap his kneecaps on the way there to buy ourselves some extra time. I mean, it's already worked once before. If we're that worried about getting spotted, we could set a brief timer on someone's phone and toss it off in another direction to draw them away from our path. But cramming in behind the sign just ensures we'll all be clumped together in a neat little smorgasbord the second we get spotted, which could happen at any time since we don't have full visibility over the entire area. And sure enough, awesome. Right in the middle of them. I guess running it is. Although, not before Josh and Rita get cut off from the rest and forced to retreat. Now, he's got a bite to deal with, and she's sitting next to a ticking time bomb. That said, 3 out of 5 ain't too shabby, but we should really consider knocking Franz off the seat and leaving him behind. We can send help for the others once we make it to town. Well, if we make it to town. Thanks, Bambi. Although, is it just me? Or was there something weird about that deer? Yep, it's a zombie. Guess that's what happens when you let the runoff from your over-engineered snow machine seep out into the ground. Right now, that's the least of our problems, as it seems Franz picked this exact moment to reveal his sinister plan to cover up the whole thing. Not sure why he'd drive us almost the entire way down the mountain before doing that, but either way, dude definitely plans to do us in.
Get up. Get up!
Hold on, did he just throw the shovel at us? Screw running off into the forest. Let's go back for that thing and beat his to death with it. For real, dude literally threw away his only leverage. Of course, he wouldn't have been able to grab it in the first place had we both dogpiled him after he kicked Steve in the face. Ill intentions don't really get any more obvious than that. Now, we're just stuck wandering aimlessly through the forest, just hoping we randomly stumble upon the lower lodge before we freeze to death. It's all good though, because Steve went and made us a torch from his scarf that totally won't burn itself out in 30 seconds. Yeah, this is ridiculous. How about, instead of trailblazing through knee-deep snow, we just circle back to the road some distance away and follow it from just inside the tree line. This way, we can't get lost, and we'll be able to hear Franz's snowmobile from far enough away to take cover before he comes by, provided he can even get it running again.
Så det bliver løsen.
Cool. Hang on a second. Don't deer typically hunt in packs?
Clever girl.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Should have kept the shovel. Steve and Bronca should be wary of this as well. It stands to reason the infection could have spread across the entire local deer population, which is yet another reason to top the small mountain of reasons why we should avoid traveling through the woods. And apparently, we also need to add bear traps to that list, which is something I honestly wouldn't have thought of. Then again, I probably would have avoided walking up to the dead rabbit dangling from a tree on principle alone. Steve's just lucky his boots were thick enough to keep keep his leg from being snapped off at the shin. At least now he'll be conscious long enough to watch as they're brutally eaten alive by 2 zombies that were just hanging around this exact spot for no discernible reason. Nah, I'm just kidding. This is an absolute non-issue. We saw Steve tear one's freaking arm off earlier, so that stick Bronco's got might as well be a halberd right now. But instead of simply waving it around like we're trying to drive a cave bear off our mammoth carcass, we should make use of both hands and spear each one through the eye socket. Oh, or we could just stand there and hope the zombies suddenly go vegan by the time they make it to us. What possible reason could you have to not be fighting tooth and nail right now? It's almost like they know they're about to be saved by the bell.
They're reacting to the music.
Great, now let's see how they react to a frontal lobotomy. I mean, this is about as good an opportunity to strike as you can possibly get, and Bronca totally blows it by screwing around with the trap. For Christ's sake, at least push them over before betting your life on your ability to overpower a bear trap, which in reality, you probably would not be able to do, seeing as how it's a trap meant for bears. Whatever, it all works out in the end. Plus, now we know the zombie's one weakness, you know, besides head trauma, dismemberment, evisceration, or pretty much any other form of violence. And that's not even the best part. Turns out, we were only a short walk from the lift station. All that's left to do now is turn the power back on so we can head back up the mountain and wait, what? You guys just made it. You are both at the thing. The one place you know someone will be in just a few short hours to take you home. Why? Like, why would you want to go back there? What, to save Josh and Rita? You realize if they are still alive, it's because they crawled back up into the attic, which is exactly what you saw them doing as you rode away. That means they'll almost certainly be fine to hang around another few hours while you wait for help to arrive. All that being said, I am kind of curious as to whether Rita managed to put Josh down before he could become a pain in the neck. Let's see how they're doing.
Rita, you have to... What the f***?
Not good. I know he didn't say how exactly he wanted to go, but the least you could do is try to make it quick. Besides, wouldn't you want to destroy the brain, or did Josh's cousin leave that part out? Either way, it shouldn't matter, because instead of counting on the sweet old bartender to harness her killer instinct and snuff out a helpless moron, why not post up by the hatch so we can shove him into the bar as soon as he starts acting corpsey? After all, what's one more zombie down there when they can't even reach us anyway? Of course, once Josh does get back on his feet, peace is no longer an option. Luckily, by then, Rita's deep enough into her flask to dish out the ski poles.
Now you see me!
Now you don't.
You know, I thought that would have put him down for good. It's probably fine. These things are barely dangerous even with eyesight. What's a blind one going to do besides bounce off the walls for all eternity? Or trap itself in the ceiling? With that out of the way, Rita has time to slip on down to the basement, where it seems her late husband has been preparing for this day his entire life. For Christ's sake, is that an MG42? Wait a minute, you knew all this was down here the whole time, and you still went up to the attic. What the hell is wrong with you? We could have rigged that thing up on the snowmobile and gone dead snow on these zombies. This entire mess would have been over in 10 minutes. We might have even been able to finish the party. Okay. I know it's better late than never, but I just can't get over what a massive, wasted opportunity this was. And it's about to get even worse, because while Rita was busy gassing up the buzzsaw, Steve and Bronca were gearing up for the final assault on the bar, and now they're walking directly into the line of fire. No way. She missed every shot. Honestly, I'm not even mad. That's somewhat impressive. I mean, you'd think she would have made some minor adjustments when there wasn't any gazpacho hitting the ceiling, but I guess the sound of Erica playing in her head was just too much of a distraction. Unfortunately, the one thing she did hit happened to be full of Everclear, which is now leaking dangerously close to an open flame. Better plug your ears. Wow. Hey, remember when we were all totally safe up in the attic? Bet you're missing that right now, huh? We're not hosed yet, as we still know a surefire trick to stop the zombies cold. All we have to do is whip out Spotify and play literally any song. Preferably something long enough for us to pick them all off. Actually, why even bother? It's not our job to kill these things. We can just walk calmly over to the ski lift and ride it back down the mountain. Never mind. I guess we've completely forgotten about that. It was only the single most important discovery of the the evening that not only saved our lives, but also allowed us to enjoy the completely pointless dance number I skipped over out of sheer cringe. Why would anyone remember something like that? Besides, who needs straight up zombie kryptonite when you've got lines like this?
Now we become dead.
We got snowboards.
Damn, I got goosebumps. So what? They're gonna whack them with the snowboards? Yeah, I wish. Instead, we're treated to almost 10 minutes of these two shredding the gnar and taking out zombies in ways that were all infinitely more dangerous and painstaking than simply running around with a couple 2x4s. They even bump into Undead Josh at one point, but instead of putting their dear friend out of his misery, they just sort of stand there while he inadvertently clips himself onto a board and slides off into obscurity. Boy, wouldn't it be great when some unsuspecting snowshoers find what they think is a grievously injured snowboarder and start this whole mess over even closer to civilization. Gotta admit, at this point, I thought about shutting this trash fire off and making up the rest, but then Rita came out with the snowblower to whip up a batch of blood slushies. There's just something about her deadpan expression as she slowly and methodically grinds each zombie into pulp that makes it all seem worth it. Just when things are looking way too easy, reanimated Franz shows up to remind us there's actually something at stake. Sure, Bronca could just brain him with the crowbar like he's any other zombie, but then how would we be blessed by yet another one of Steve's brilliant ideas?
Table in the snowblower!
Are you crazy?
Just do it!
Ah, he almost had it. Nah, you just know it's gonna work perfectly. Well, except for the parts where he winds up dangling over the conveniently placed death fan down in Franz's workshop. I mean, all Steve really had to do was lean back at the last second and sweep the legs. Where exactly was he planning on carrying the zombie to anyway? The moon? Oh well, it ultimately doesn't matter, because apparently Bronca here is able to casually one-arm 400 plus pounds for over a minute while he works out a way to cut the dead weight. And cut it he does. Really, dude? You're not even gonna say anything cool like, let it snow, or drop dead? God, yet another massive wasted opportunity. And with that, Steve and Bronca live to put this whole mess behind them. At least until the army of zombified deer rises up and conquers the entire planet. In the meantime, the three of them better get their story straight and round up a couple living zombies to use as evidence. Because right now, it kinda looks like they blew up the ski lodge before brutally murdering the survivors in a fit of rage after Steve lost his sponsorships. Nah, trust us, officer. It was totally zombies. Good luck with that. In the end, Rita, Bronca, and Steve all made it out alive. However, had Rita made effective use of her late husband's massive arsenal from the very beginning, she probably could have single-handedly cured the infection before things got out of hand. Of course, once they were up in the attic, all they had to do was ignore Franz's bullshit and call the police, at which point they could have just stayed put and waited for help to arrive without losing anyone else. For that reason, I think Attack of the Lederhosen zombies was beaten. Moral of the story, don't feed the deer.